Hello friends! So Nintendo Switch has no games. That used to be something everyone said, but can people say that anymore? Well, if they do then they shouldn't, and I am here to prove it. Like a lot of Nintendo fans, if I were to name my top 10 favourite Switch games, the list would be dominated by Nintendo's games. So, to keep things interesting, any games made or published by Nintendo are banned. This list was a difficult one to make, not because I had to scrape the bottom of the barrel to find decent games, but because there were just so many to choose from, and that is a testament to how many fantastic third-party games the Switch has. If I was to do this list for the Wii U, I'd probably just be naming the only 10 decent third-party games that console had, but I had so much trouble narrowing this one down to 20, let alone 10. Sophie has also made a top 10 list of her favourite non-Nintendo Nintendo Switch games, and would you believe it, even including our honourable mentions, no game appears on both lists. If that doesn't show how much variety the Switch has with its third party and indie games, then nothing will. So make sure you hit that subscribe button to not miss Sophie's list coming in the future. Just remember, this is my personal favourite list. Your list will undoubtedly be different to mine, so let me know in the comments what your favourites are and any recommendations you might have. And as always, I don't want to spoil what's coming up in the list, so the games you've been looking at so far are my honourable mentions. I'm Dave from SaveDex, and these are my top 10 non-Nintendo Nintendo Switch games. Number 10, Ukulele. This game didn't get the best reception at launch on the other systems, but I didn't get it then, as I wanted it on the Switch. So maybe a lot of its flaws were corrected by then, but I'm just not seeing why people think this game isn't good. Except for the long loading times, they are really terrible. Most people prefer the sequel, but I am in that 0% who prefers this one. But then, 3D collectathons are my favourite genre of game. I found the world to be very charming, the characters extremely likeable, the moves were a lot of fun and it controlled really well. There are 5 worlds, all of which can be expanded, and I found all of them to be fun to explore with plenty of challenges to collect those pages. The casino level being a highlight. You can become a helicopter as well. It wasn't until my second playthrough that it really hit me how much I love this game, and it happened with Mario Odyssey as well. I never get time to replay games much nowadays with so many to get through, so most games just come and go for me, but this is a rare time where I felt compelled to play it a second and third time, and those playthroughs were even more enjoyable than the first. Number 9, Super Crate Box. I have done a review of this game on the channel as I felt people need to know about this one. We have a high score game here where you collect as many crates as possible before you get hit by the enemies. Each time you collect a crate, your weapon changes, and that's all there is to it really. Quick reflexes and adaptability are required for this game, and it is one of the most addictive games I've ever played. I loved it on the Vita and I love it on the Switch. You want to hear more about it? Check out my review, links in the description. Number 8, Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom. This game is clearly inspired by Wonder Boy the Dragon's Trap. That we will get onto later. But they went above and beyond with this one and created a massive adventure that took me a lot longer to beat than I expected. A Metroidvania where you get to turn into multiple animals on the fly. This really does feel like the sort of game Wonder Boy 3 would have been if it was made in the modern day. With a more streamlined way of switching between animals so it feels like their abilities are all needed to work together. The game world was a joy to explore and beautifully presented, and although it may cost twice as much as Wonder Boy on the eShop, you are definitely getting more than twice the adventure here. Number 7, Shovel Knight treasure trove. I had this game on the 3DS, and just had to get it again on the Switch. This features 4 campaigns with 4 playable characters, a Smash Bros style multiplayer and more. Each character controls so well, from Shovel Knight's bouncing off his shovel to Spectre Knight's wall jumping, and the lore of this world is expanded upon with each campaign. I love how when you die you lose money, and you need to get back to that point without dying again in order to get it back, which is a fantastic way to motivate you to keep going. Reaching the end of a stage to fight a boss gives me those Mega Man vibes, each character with their own gimmicks to make them memorable, and the game is difficult but not unfairly so. Like with some of those old school NES games, practice makes perfect here. Number 6, Cuphead. Going from one difficult game to an extremely difficult one, Cuphead is a game full of boss fights, and they take some beating. There are a few side-scrolling levels too, but the majority of the stages are boss encounters. The bosses are varied and memorable, and a big part of that is the game's beautiful presentation, inspired by 30s cartoons. It definitely adds a lot of personality to the game. The gameplay itself is like a bullet hell shooter, where you need to be doing a lot of evading as you try again and again to take out these bosses. Just when you figure out the pattern, you'll beat that phase only for them to switch things up in the next one. At first I hated the fact that you couldn't see the enemy's health bar, but when you die it shows you a progress meter, so you can see how close you were to winning. Like in Shovel Knight, they just put this genius way to motivate the player into trying one more time, and without it, I don't know how much I would have continued playing. But it is here, and I did beat the game and absolutely loved it. Then I unlocked a harder difficulty, which I refuse to touch. I do like my games to be hard, but I am not a sadist.
Welcome. Goodbye.
Number 5, Rocket League. Let's relax now with a nice game of football. In cars. Why not? I've mentioned before that I love this game despite having no interest in cars or football. I loved the idea of it when I first heard about the game years ago, but my first time playing it was on the Switch. It was a very hard game to get good at, and I still don't think I'm any good at it at all. But like with a lot of games I find hard, when I finally do it right, it's such a good feeling to see that ball go into the goal. I spend most of my time with this game online with randoms, and I mentioned before that a lot of the time my teammates just seem to randomly go to hit the ball, not caring where it goes, like a dog would. I like to think I'm more strategic, but maybe from their point of view I seem to do that as well, who knows. But I have missed plenty of goals that were on target because a teammate decided to boost into it and knock it out of the way. It is a bit of a love-hate relationship I have with this game, but the love part is enough to bring it to the number 5 spot. Number 4, Celeste. This was a big deal when it came out. So many fantastic reviews, a nomination for Game of the Year at the Game Awards, and just hearing nothing but praise all over. I didn't get round to it for a while though, but eventually I did, and yeah, believe the hype. This was also featured on my top 10 2D platformers list, as well it should be. Immediately people are won over by its charming characters and the personal struggles Madeline goes through, which very much enhances the experience, but the game itself plays so good, with levels so well designed that even without the story it would still sit among the best games on the Switch. This game is rock hard platforming perfection. You have the abilities to climb walls and do a boost jump in midair, which are limited, and the game keeps throwing different challenges and elements at you to keep things feeling fresh all the time and working within your limitations. You have frequent checkpoints and unlimited lives, which keeps things feeling fair, I got myself stuck at so many points, dying over and over again, and it never felt like it was the game's fault, and you can never beat that satisfying feeling when you finally get past it. Absolutely amazing game in every respect. Number 3. Shantae Half Genie Hero. It's amazing how this time last year I knew next to nothing about Shantae, but now I absolutely love the franchise. This is a platform adventure game where instead of one big map, you have smaller, self-contained levels. It still holds the Metroidvania tropes of having inaccessible areas that you need to return to when you acquire new power-ups, so although there aren't many levels, you will be revisiting them enough times to make the adventure a pretty sizable one. Turning into the different animals is always fun, and like with any games in this genre, there is no better feeling than unlocking a new ability and remembering earlier places where it will come in useful. The Ultimate Edition also comes with several extra modes too, including Jammies mode. Need I say more? Well, I have already said more in a previous video. Link is in the description if you want to see my further thoughts on this game. Shantae for Smash. Number 2. Wonder Boy: The Dragon's Trap. Is this game better than the previous games on this list, especially Monster Boy? Probably not, but do I prefer it to the previous entries on this list? Definitely. This is a complete nostalgia-fueled pick and I don't care, I just love this game. I had Wonder Boy 3 on the Game Gear as a kid and I played it a lot, starting from the very beginning each time and seeing how far I could get. I knew the password system was there, but I wanted to see it all the way through, and eventually I managed to do that. This is a very faithful recreation of that game with beautiful hand-drawn visuals. It's an adventure game where you get cursed by being turned into Lizard Man. You then have to navigate the world to slay all the dragons. Each dragon slayed results in you becoming a new animal. Each animal has their own special abilities that grant them access to a new area. It's sort of Metroidvania light. The world isn't very big, there isn't even a map, and you're not required to revisit the same areas twice for the most part. But that makes things easier to explore and find your own way around. My only gripe with this game is that I beat it really quickly because it is essentially the exact same game as before. You can even switch the visuals and music back to how it was originally, but they did at least add in a hard mode with a time limit. Each time it runs out, you lose some health. That's a clever idea. So even though this remake didn't have the impact on me the original did, I still adore this game and it has a lot of sentimental value. I am really jealous of people who never played the original and get to experience it for the first time now, so they can have all that joy of discovering the game's world and secrets in this gorgeous art style. Number 1. Sonic Mania. If anyone saw my top 10 2D platformers video, you will have seen this game at number 1. Well, here it is in the top spot again. When the Switch was in its infancy and the whole Switch has no games argument had a bit of weight to it, my friend asked me what my top 10 Switch games were so far. Sonic Mania had not been out for long at that point, but I put it straight in the top spot, even above Breath of the Wild. It is now over 3 years later, and although there are several Nintendo games I would rate above this now, I still think this is the best non-Nintendo game on the Switch. Why is that? Well, like with Wonder Boy, my nostalgia does play a huge role here. I was a huge fan of Sonic growing up, despite never owning a Mega Drive. I played them enough with friends and was obsessed with them. I collected the comics, watched the cartoon, had toys and so on, but it wasn't until the Sonic Mega Collection on the GameCube that I owned those original games myself. Even when playing the newer games, although I've enjoyed plenty of them, they haven't captured the magic of those originals for me. Until Sonic Mania. This does play very heavily on nostalgia, but even the new zones they created shows just how much they can do with Sonic, while sticking to that original formula. I love everything about this game and really hope they bring out a sequel with all new zones in the future. So those were my favourite non-Nintendo Nintendo Switch games. Which ones did I leave out? Which ones should I have left out? Let me know down below what your favourites are and hit that subscribe button to not miss Sophie's list coming in the near future. So thank you so much for watching everyone, see you in the next one.